Hi, my name is Carrie Goldsmith, and I'm originally from Canada, but have lived in the UK for most of my adult life. I spent my earlier years in London and moved further south about 15 years ago. My maternal grandparents were from a small village in the Carpathian Mountains called Bukovina and immigrated to Canada when my grandmother was quite young. She never spoke much about her life before Canada, apart from calling me her little squirrel in Hungarian, and as a result, I found her fascinating and a bit of a mystery. I always felt there was something of a dark fairy tale about her. She was formidable and slightly terrifying, but also had a twinkle in her eye. I grew up regularly visiting her home, which was like an emporium of interesting objects, and most of all colour. The house itself was pink, and there was always the smell of coffee and fresh baking. There were so many objects in the house that fascinated me, as well as dark corners where we were forbidden to go, which just added to the mystery. I think this unknown aspect of my grandmother's life has been a constant influence. There was something wonderfully romantic about this person who was so prominent in my life, but also distant because of her reticence to discuss her early life. My paintings almost always have a sense of place within, somewhere to enter and explore. I loved creating as a child, but I really got serious about painting about 20 years ago. I began with one-on-one painting classes with a woman who had put an ad in the local art shop notice board offering tuition. She taught me a lot about colour mixing and light and tone, all the basics. This was in London, and once we had moved, I started looking for new classes. I did a few short courses at various institutions before attending Heatherley's School of Fine Art in London for 2 years. This was great for learning the real basics of fine art paintings. We'd sometimes spend half the day just mixing to create various colours before ever taking a brush to the canvas. I've benefited hugely from this training, even the basics like cleaning my palette to a mirror clean finish after each painting session. But I found once I'd left the school, I had really tightened up and become a little rigid in my process. I'd lost the original gestural, fearless manner I'd come to painting with, and it took a while for me to loosen back up to a place where I used the principles of what I'd been taught, but in a way that expressed my ideas. After Heatherley's, I did a 2-year foundation at Westdean College in West Sussex. This was a brilliant way to explore various practical techniques. And I say practical because most actual degree courses don't contain much in the way of practical teaching. They're more about theory, but I'll come back to that. The foundation was a great stepping stone, which I followed with a full-time graduate diploma in visual arts through Sussex University. This was where we were on our own in terms of what our practice consisted of and what we were trying to express with it. The programme was more about research and writing with a few workshops along the way. Overall, I felt pretty disillusioned with the whole thing, but realised in hindsight that this formal study had been a good launch pad for getting out in the world, confident with my work, what I wanted to say with it, and ready to exhibit whenever possible. My early influences are many artists from the early 20th century, people like Mark Gertler, Dora Carrington, Juan Gris, Giorgio Morandi, Paul Nash, as well as my Canadian compatriot Emily Carr. Emily Carr isn't as well known globally as she is in Canada, but funnily enough, it took leaving Canada for me to truly appreciate her work. I guess I saw it as super Canadian, and it took that separation for me to see her work with new, hugely appreciative eyes. I'm influenced by life and nature and began my practice painting trees, landscapes, etc. But over the years, I began concentrating on the light and shadow created in the natural world. I eventually deconstructed these images to shapes and lines, always concentrating on the natural gradation of colour and tone. I feel I'm a better painter when I work gesturally and with abandon. The immediateness of applying paint to the canvas works best for me. I rely on instinct and also my own trusted studio friend, a mirror, which might sound odd, but I regularly take the painting off the easel and hold it up to the mirror, as this always gives me a fresh perspective and can show me where I may be going wrong, or hopefully not. What am I focusing on right now? I've been very busy with London art fairs, which I love to do, and also group shows, one that's starting at the end of this month, November. And since those, I've been hard at it in my studio, completing a number of commissions. I'm super excited though about cracking on with some fresh new work now and also having some time to experiment, which I think is really important because it's quite easy to get stuck into a kind of groove of painting a certain way, especially if it's going down well and you're getting a good response. But I think it's really important to have the time away from exhibiting to experiment with new approaches. What is the biggest challenge of being an artist? I would have to say that the biggest challenge is to keep a level head when things are going well and when they're not. It's important to remember that, like with any creative pursuit, there are ups and downs and both need to be dealt with rationally. When you're really smashing it, you have to remember that there may be a slump around the corner, and when you're feeling you're not connecting with your practice at all, it will almost certainly pick up. You've just got to stay level-headed through both situations. What advice would you give to your younger self? The advice I would give would be to see value in every creative pursuit. It's all about exploration and freedom and fearlessness. Do what you love to do what you want to see, and it will all work out. Have you ever tried any unconventional mediums or techniques? I wouldn't say unconventional, but I have experimented with paper in place of paint in creating collages. And what I mean is I've created collages that are all about color and tone, and I've used paper to do this. These aren't collages with incongruous juxtapositions like a mouth for eyes, etc., but paper being used in a painterly way. I love doing it, but it's a bit more like surgery and can be quite arduous. But it's something I've really enjoyed doing, and I can't help but collect bits of beautiful coloured paper when I'm looking through magazines, still, in the hopes of doing some more. Do you listen to music or any other type of background noise? People often ask me what music I listen to because I am passionate about music. But when I work, I don't actually listen to music at all because I love it so much, it becomes a distraction. I can't completely involve myself in what I'm doing if I've got music playing. It's sort of one or the other. I tend to listen to podcasts almost exclusively when I work, and sometimes unconsciously. And I only remember what I was listening to when I look back at the painting at the end of the session. What's the best reaction someone has had to your artwork? Without a doubt, the best reaction I've had would be tears after I've explained to the person who's looking at the piece what it meant to me. I've had wonderful reactions like goosebumps, etc., which is unbelievably gratifying, and I'm super grateful for that. And I'm also grateful to you, Stan, for reaching out and asking me to do this. It's been really fun actually putting it down in words. Thanks so much.